Did you see Keith Lee?
Oh, boy. You know, we just put up the Drive-Thru where we reviewed NXT TakeOver. And it's been brought up to me several times since that wonderful Tuesday afternoon the show went up, that I said on there, just watch how they'll screw him up on Raw. I had no idea it would already have happened by the time the show came out. They did it in record time this time.
Okay, we have mostly praised Keith Lee for almost everything physical, right? Most of his matches, the match with him and Karrion Kross last week didn't come together as probably my least favorite of Keith Lee's matches that I've seen. Part of that may have had to do with Kross hurting his shoulder and it being, a problem in the last minutes of the thing. By the way, apparently, I'm a goddamn savant. That was as plain as to me as the goddamn wart on the Wicked Witch of the West Nose's face, that he hurt his shoulder and you could see that knot a mile away, and everybody on Twitter was like, oh, Cornette saw it. Cornette called it. How could we have known? How could you not fucking know? He's not using it. He's holding it in. There's a giant knot on it. What the fuck? Anyway.
Hey, real quick on that, though, and we're going to review NXT on the Drive-Thru this week with AEW, as well as some questions, I presume. But he vacated the NXT Championship. How long does someone typically have to be out when they separate their shoulder?
Well, it depends. If it's a bad enough separation, it needs surgery. Orton's gone through that in the past. If it's just a regular old separated shoulder, some of these fucking freaks of nature, and I'm sure this guy's driven, he might be back in 4 to 6 weeks. I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on television, so it can be all over the page. But boy, they can't keep a motherfucker as champion, can they? It's like, that belt is cursed. Keith Lee forfeits it. They go to all this trouble to name the new champion. The new champion gets hurt in the goddamn match where he's going to be crowned and then has to immediately turn it over as soon as he wins it. And now what they're going to have...
Well, no, he beat Keith Lee for the title. You're thinking of the North American title.
Oh, wait.
He vacated the North American title.
All right. Okay, shit. I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, he vacated the North American title. They go through all that and filled that, and one of those guys got hurt before it was over with. Then the fucking title that Keith Lee kept, he then loses to Karrion Kross, who gets hurt in the fucking... You know what this means, don't you? There's too many fucking champions. And now they're going to have some kind of goddamn clusterfuck, multi-man scaffold match, bungee jump over the Colorado River, Snake River Canyon fucking stipulation deal to fill this title now, right?
It's a 4-man, the 4 men being Gargano, Ciampa, Adam Cole, and Finn Balor, a 4-man, 60-minute Iron Man match.
Okay, why is I guess Gargano's in there because he's got good cardio and he can take everybody else's moves.
And he's a former champion. They're all former NXT champions.
Johnny Same Face. Where's Ciampa been? Why have they not been featuring Ciampa? We've been watching NXT for weeks, and where's Ciampa been?
Well, he returned on this week's show, which you'll see before we review it on.
Okay, he returned. That does not answer the question of where he's been. That indicates that he's back, but it doesn't tell me where he's been.
I have no idea where he's been.
If he was available to them, they're putting goddamn some of the talent they've been putting on that show, and they're not using Tommaso Ciampa? All right. Anyway, the point is, and we see this on SummerSlam, and I don't want to preview the review, but every goddamn match practically was not only for a title, but it was for another version of someone else's title. Well, this guy's the champion. The Raw champion? No, the Universal champion. Well, these are the tag team champions. Which ones? Oh, the Raw tag team champions, not the tag team champions on Smack. It can't even be world title, North American title, Intercontinental title, whatever. It's got to be just different versions of everybody's the world fucking champion. And you can't keep track of it. And now with NXT, it's even worse. And all these titles being dropped and vacated and whatever. Getting back to Keith Lee. What in the flying fuck? What in the wide, wide world of sports? They thought as I said, we've been putting Keith Lee over for his matches and his moves and his athleticism and the way he can move that fucking weight. And he's in his mid-30s. He's a physical freak. I said, I hate the fucking promos. He sounds like Dr. Fraser Crane. Sounds like a goddamn clinical psychologist. He looks intimidating as all hell and sounds almost pleasant and friendly and sing-song. And then what was it, week before last, somebody pissed him off and he cut a fucking promo that I said sounded like it ought to have been on Mid-South Wrestling in the 80s. Had some bass in his voice, got mad, was gonna do, that's the fucking Keith Lee I want to see. I'm thinking, okay, that's what they're bringing to the main roster. This fucking badass that can do all this shit, huge, can work, and fucking, as Ernie Ladd would say, talks like he covers the ground he walks on. What we got on Raw, he actually said, greetings and salutations. We got a fucking giant 375-pound man wearing a hoodie and a fucking skirt that makes Paul Lynde sound like a badass.
Come on.
Look up Uncle Arthur on Bewitched, young people. This was the goddamn most physically and verbally unintimidating promo since the last time that Richard Simmons got mad at his mailman. He was going the other way to be a very articulate and pleasant person. It was like somebody kicked him in the balls. His voice is 3 octaves higher. And did I mention he's wearing what appears to be a skirt? What?
Yeah, he was dressed like a divorcee playing tennis.
Yes!
He was dressed
That's
like
it.
It was a tennis skirt, yeah.
A tennis skirt and a fucking hoodie. And then he took the hoodie off, but he still got a shirt on. What? They've changed his music. They changed his fucking dress.
He shaved.
And I don't even mean his manner of dress, but they literally put him in a dress.
They had him shave, new look.
That's right. That I didn't even notice that. I thought he looked cleaner somehow, or even more baby face. He shaved too. And then, okay, appearances are subject to, people's personal interpretation. Let's look at the facts. This new talent that went literally as far as anyone could go in NXT, simultaneously holding both championships. NXT is no longer doing spot shows in Florida only. They are on national television. People have seen this fucking guy. Am I right? Am I speaking facts?
You are right.
He's been on national television for months now. The way he dresses, the way he talks, the way he works, the things he's done. He comes to a television program on another cable network. This program currently doing charitably 2.5 times the viewership of the program he's left. So it's not like a goddamn difference between local television in Cleveland and NBC. They not only change his look, not only change his dress, not only change his music, but also when he challenges a top star, Randy Orton, the most physically dominant guy from this other promotion, challenges Randy Orton, wrestles for a few minutes with Randy Orton, then Drew McIntyre interferes and fucking pulls Randy Orton out of the fucking deal, and goddamn it, they get into it. Where'd Keith Lee go?
He disappeared like Tommaso Ciampa in NXT.
It's hard to make a 375-pound man disappear into thin air, but they did it. So the guy who viewers can be excused for thinking is the biggest star and the most accomplished man in the history of NXT gets a match on Raw with Randy Orton. It's competitive for 3 or 4 minutes. And then somebody else interferes, and this guy's never seen or heard of again. He doesn't win his debut on this television show. If he can't beat Randy Orton, put him against somebody else he can beat. If he can't beat anybody, don't put him in a match. It's a work. You can do whatever you want. Have him come out and challenge people and they don't want to fucking get in the ring with him because he's such a big fucking badass. Or, more importantly, just do what you're supposed to do. Have him challenge a star. Have him wrestle the star. Have him beat the fucking star. That's how he becomes a star. That's how he gets over. Just exposing him on this television program for a few minutes like, oh, well, we gave him an interview and he had a match with Randy and he went 4 minutes without getting beat before he disappeared because he's such a dickless pussy that somebody interferes in his big Raw television debut and he doesn't immediately go after that motherfucker. He just tucks his head and tail between his legs and wanders off like Dr. Fraser Crane, not the Incredible Hulk. It's a work. You can do anything you want. So therefore, if you ain't going to fucking debut the guy and give him a big win and put him over, don't do it at all. What the? That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. If it was some little guy, bring him in, let him be competitive with Randy, sure, and then he sells and gets sympathy, and then Randy fucks him, and then Drew McIntyre comes to his rescue. But fucking hell, what there is? Show me one time in the history of professional wrestling, and I will say this, and then I'll be done with it. One instance in the history of professional wrestling where a guy became a star by debuting against a star that he then not only didn't beat, but just disappeared when the actual stars got to fight. Fuck. Jesus Christ. Am I misrepresenting this to the people?
No.
To the people out there?
You're very, very correct. And it's not just any Raw. It's the Raw after a major pay-per-view. There's always a bump for that. So it's a bigger audience than Raw's been getting for a while. People have seen Keith Lee. He was in the Royal Rumble, and they bring him in, and he runs right into that wall known as Vince McMahon.
Well, I mean, after the interview, you know, nobody wanted to see him anyway because it was so goddamn. It was like a Disney movie. He looks like that and cuts a promo like he should be the fucking Big Brother bear in a Disney movie. Like he's Baloo. Oh, it's some honey. Are we scared now to have any intimidating badasses on television for fear someone might have nightmares? I don't know. Anyway, point is, if anybody hadn't seen Keith Lee before, they never wanted to see him again after that. After the fucking promo he did, it was sounded to me like a lot of people would probably hope Randy Orton just kicks him in the fucking mouth and shuts him up because that was a goddamn disgraceful fucking promo. Not for a college classroom, but for a challenge to a fight. That was the most unintimidating interview I've ever heard. And, you know, it's hard to dismiss the physical capabilities of a giant 375-pound man, except when they're wearing a tennis skirt. So why didn't they just fucking throw him in the fucking pond out back and just kill him quick instead of embarrassing him first? I don't know.